Yesterday, I had a passenger pay $47 for a ride, and I only got 9, but they paid $23 for commercial auto insurance for like a 7-mile trip. None of this made sense. Hi, my name is Levi Spires, and this is the Tip You in the App Daily Drive. In this podcast, I'm going to go ahead and answer at least all of my questions that I have about why was that commercial auto insurance line so much. In addition to that, I'll go over my ride of the day yesterday, where I had a great conversation with a night shift person, and answer a few of your questions. I had a ride yesterday, and let me kind of go through what happened. It was already after the morning rush. I got a ride from a hotel to an airport. It was about 7 miles, and it was going to pay me $9. It was really slow. Sure, let's do that. And after I dropped the passenger off, I got a $9 tip. And that really took me back. In fact, I got paid $9.20 on the fare, and the tip was $9.50. Now, it's really rare for me to get a tip more than what I got paid. But it does happen. It does happen every now and then. It's like one of those things where you get like the Christmas bonus. The passenger tips you $20 or $50 or $100. It might happen once every quarter, and it definitely happens around the holiday season. But it was an odd number too, $9.50, and that didn't make any sense. So I decided to do the unthinkable. I dove into the Uber app, and I went and looked and like, what happened with this transaction? And the first thing I noticed was that the passenger paid $47. That's so hard to take sometimes when you see that the passenger pays so much, and that, $47 and I got $9. That's just horribly, it just feels really bad. But I went through all the transactions, and I realized that the passenger paid $23 for commercial auto insurance for a 7-mile trip, $3 a mile. So you imagine, just do some quick back of the napkin math here. At $3 a mile, give or take, I drive 70,000 miles a year. As an Uber driver, that means I'm paying $210,000 in commercial auto insurance. Or Uber's paying commercial auto insurance of $210,000. That math is not. There's no way. Nobody's going to pay $210,000 in commercial auto insurance per year for a vehicle doing 70-something thousand miles, no matter what the car is. Maybe if it was a McLaren P1 or something like that. Yeah, so just crazy dollar amounts. And so I went further down the rabbit hole. Like, what happened? I went and looked at all of my fares. I did 15 trips yesterday. And out of those 15 trips that I took, 4 passengers paid a random, absurd dollar amount for commercial auto insurance. Almost all of my trips were less than 10 miles. In fact, all of them, I think, were right around less than 10 miles. Some were like 0.8 miles. Some were like, right around 10 miles. So the trip didn't have a big effect on it. Basically, what I found was that Uber charges about a minimum of $3.07 for commercial auto insurance and operational expenses. And then on top of that, every now and then, if the trip is a little bit longer, they might charge you a little bit more. But these 4 passengers paid an absurd amount. The numbers were $14, $16, $22. And then again, the one passenger paid $23 for that. Now, what is that line item first? It's mostly commercial auto insurance, but it could include other things like credit card transaction fees or some other things. But it's an operational expense. The cost that Uber incurs to have me as a driver on the platform. And so, but why would those 4 people pay more? Like a lot more. Again, $23 versus what some other people paid, which was like $3 to go roughly the same distance. And I think what's happening is this. Uber has surge pricing, variable pricing. They charge passengers whatever the passenger will pay, and then they pay drivers whatever they will accept, and then they can arbitrage that difference between the two. And we all, drivers and passenger, passengers are aware of surge pricing. So if you're leaving a concert or bars are closing, there's surge pricing, or maybe the morning rush, bad weather. Like yesterday, it was snowing. So maybe the bad weather, was part of that surge pricing. So they charge passengers surge pricing, but instead of passing that pricing off to the driver, they just kept it and used it to fund that escrow account of commercial auto insurance. And I'm using the word escrow in accounting terms because I think that's what they're doing. Basically, Uber has a big bill every month or quarter or a year for commercial auto insurance. And instead of charging a flat rate per mile based upon the driver or the car or the distance or something like that, they're just basically saying it's like $3. And then when they can, they're just upping the funding of that account to pay the bill. So basically, there were 4 passengers that got ripped off. They paid a lot more to fund other passengers that didn't pay as much. And Uber did that because they could, because the driver or the passenger was unaware of whatever pricing. And I understand that variable pricing and surge pricing is a logical thing, but I think it's unethical to do it in a way that's not transparent to the passenger. And it's also not transparent to the driver. Again, they were charging surge pricing, and I have the occasion that I can see on the map when there is surges, but there's surge pricing for passengers, and then there's surge payments to drivers. There was no surges on the map at this time, so they were charging passengers more. And here's the real unethical thing about it. The passenger doesn't know what I'm getting paid. So when the passenger sees that I paid $47 to go 7 miles, it's reasonable for them to assume that I got at least half of that. So they're like, wow, the driver got paid $23. That's pretty good. Maybe I don't have to tip. The driver got paid a lot of money. I paid a surge pricing. And I think that's one of the reasons why tips are dropping, is because Uber is charging passengers more, but they're not passing that off to the driver. But they're not telling the passenger that they're doing that. Passengers are just assuming that I'm getting paid more. And so Uber is just taking that money. And it's for good reason. I mean, if you were to go look at Uber's costs, commercial insurance has gone up. A friend of mine over on X, Robert, was like, go read the SEC filings. I did not read the SEC filings, but I did skim them. And I did use ChatGPT and Grok to kind of analyze it. And for sure, yeah, commercial auto insurance, everybody knows, whether you're in the transportation world or even your own personal insurance, inflation, insurance costs are going up. So I can't fault Uber for that per se, but the way in which they're arbitrarily just charging random passengers an absurd amount because that passenger, has the propensity to pay, that seems, and they're not telling the passenger. That lack of transparency is the thing that I think is really wrong. And the way that they're keeping that information from the driver, and at least in the upfront initial cost of that transaction. Me as a data kind of guy, I can go back through and look at all the trips and analyze them, but nobody's making that decision up front. We're all getting that data post transaction, and that's unethical. So yeah, I don't blame driver or Uber that they have higher commercial auto insurance. I just think they're doing it. They're charging passengers and not telling the drivers in a transparent way. And I was thinking, like, what could Uber do to potentially even lower their commercial auto insurance? Maybe what they could do is reward safer drivers. Maybe get drivers that are higher risk off of the platform, or charge drivers that are higher risk more money. Make them pay for it. Why should I pay for it? Why should that passenger why should some passengers pay for it? We have these safety ratings as drivers, where I'm a 99. So I'm a very safe driver. It measures, I think, the telemetry of the phone, whether I'm accelerating too much or turning hard or braking too hard, the speed in which I'm going. So they know I'm a safe driver. I don't have a lot of tickets. I got a ticket, 2-3 years ago, but I don't have a lot of speeding tickets or anything like that. But maybe those drivers are even safer than me. They should be, they shouldn't have to pay. The fare shouldn't be arbitrarily done across the board. Whereas there are drivers that are really unsafe. They have a low score. They speed. They have a lot of tickets. Their car is more expensive to insure. Whatever it is, it shouldn't be flat across the board. It should be varied, and it should be explained to all of us as passengers and drivers. What are the things that we can do to lower that insurance cost, or be paid, or at least be charged as a passenger a fair amount? It's unfair for, again, these four random passengers to be charged that. That's it's a lot of math, and I don't want to get too much into it anymore. But it's just unfair. It's unethical, and I don't think it's illegal, but it's immoral to have this. And Uber should do better. Uber should do better. It's not fair, and that's not transparent, and that's really what it comes down to it. Um, okay, so my ride of the day yesterday. I went out early in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning to get started. And I love that shift. I love that shift, picking up people, taking them to work, the early workers, people that do a lot of blue collar kind of work, they get in early. Or you get the night shift people that are getting off of work. And I picked up a mom who is on her way home from work. She'd worked the night shift at a gas station. Just really nice. And just the hard work that she's doing. I just, she goes home and she has kids that now have to go to school. So she gets off of work and she's going to go home and get her kids ready for school. And then once they get off to school, she has chores she has to do, laundry and things like that. And she's not a single mom. She's married, but she's not there at night with her kids. Her husband is. And just her joy and her spirit as a person stood out to me in really a trying situation, working the night shift, being away from your young children at night, and then having to go home and do that additional work of being a mom. And, you just get to meet people like that all the time as an Uber driver. When you're out in your city, you get to meet all the special people that are trying, and they're having to take Ubers because cars are so expensive. And I understand that. And, I just really appreciate that. I really, really do. Okay, now your questions. Joseph asked, how did I get 184 offers? We say in an hour, maybe it was an hour and a half. I can't remember, but how did I get so many offers? The way you get a lot of offers is you don't take any. And so I sat around for a very busy hour, the morning rush hour, 7 to like 8:30 or something like that. And I didn't take a single ride. So Uber just kept giving me rides. Now, if I would have taken one, I wouldn't have seen so many offers. So it's not that I get 184 and I get to choose between which is the best one out of those 184. It was just a sequence of offers. And because I didn't take a single one, no. They just kept giving me rides during a very busy time. And so if I would have taken one, if I'd have taken 3 rides during that time, I might have only seen like 7 offers. But again, because I wasn't taking or accepting any rides, that's why I saw so many. Rich asked about my spreadsheets. Can I share them? Yes. But you're not going to like them because they're mine. I just randomly create them. They're not like a template or a thing that can help you create your own. But I do share my template of my spreadsheets to members of the Thrive membership. So if you want to join Thrive here on this channel, you're more than welcome to get them. So it's like $3 a month to be a member of Thrive. It's nothing. And I do have some private videos, and you get early access to certain videos and things like that. So if you want my spreadsheets, you're more than welcome. But I just create my own. I like creating spreadsheets, and it's a lot of fun for me. And I use numbers. I use the Apple platform, so I export a spreadsheet as CSV files. Jess asked if I was what's the switching from an Acura to a Tesla, is it worth it? I don't know. I don't think so. If you have an Acura that's working, keep it. The only time you should really switch cars in the world of Uber driving is because you want to buy a car that you like. and your old car doesn't work anymore. I 100% do not recommend anyone purchase a car for Uber driving, especially Uber X or Uber Comfort. Maybe if you're a professional driver doing Uber Black in some of these major cities, maybe, but Uber can switch the game up at any time. Take your car off of the comfort list or whatever else. A good example is my Tesla used to be Uber XL because I have 7 seats, and they just got rid of it. And I still have the Tesla. So buy the car that you like. Buy the car that you want to drive when you're not Uber driving is my recommendation. If, and if you think it might make a little bit more money doing another thing, maybe take that into consideration. But cars are expensive, and I would not sell a good working car to get into another car and take on additional costs, payments, or anything like that just for Uber. So that's my advice. Drivers, I so appreciate you watching these videos. Your feedback. I love going through all the comments. I'm on a lot of platforms. So if you want to talk about other things like golf and politics and stuff like that, you can reach me over on X under my name, Levi Spires. I have a Facebook group just for drivers. It's under Tip You in the app. Go take a look at it. That's always fun to have that water cooler conversation with drivers. I'm on LinkedIn. So if you want to know more about behind the scenes of what I'm doing with my channel and my business, you're more than welcome to connect with me there. All these things are here to help you as a driver because I want you to be safe. I want you to be healthy. I want you to be happy. I want you to enjoy the ride. I want you to make a lot of money if you can. And I want you to know, drivers, that I am cheering for you. Be well, be safe. Bye.